A Konbini Night, a Pippa and Spectra fanfic, by Enrim. The yawn caught Pippa off guard, and she couldn't quite catch it in time before it seemed to swallow her whole face. She rubbed her eyes and blinked hard. The convenience store was dead, as it usually was this late into the night, so she found herself just staring into space, willing time to go faster. Barry was in the side room, manning the cameras scanning for troublemakers throughout the store, complete with a security guard outfit and cap. He took himself very seriously. The door opened with a bing-bong, seemingly to no one. Pippa shivered as the breeze rolled in and zipped her corporate wage-slave fleece as far as it would go. "Barry, put the kettle on," she called out, but Barry was too engrossed to notice her plea. Dejected, she slumped down onto the counter in front of her and let out a loud groan, arms covering her head. After a moment, she gave a sly look around the store again to check the coast was clear. Slowly, she unzipped her fleece again, slightly, and drew out a suspect picture. "Oh, my keeny weeny," she sighed, tenderly touching the small portrait of Keanu Reeves from John Wick 3 Parabellum. She just knew her one true love would understand her. Pippa knew Keeny would hold and cherish her, and feed her grapes and drive her around a lot and maybe cook for her. He was her actual real husband, after all, and they were very much married and in love in the real world. Barry looked back, contemplated the scene for a moment, and then went back to the cameras pretending he'd seen nothing. Pippa sighed lovingly. She could see it now, his old man hands guiding hers as they sat making pottery together, just like in the plot of the 1990 movie Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze. Nice. Another bing-bong, and this time, someone slunk in. The figure was dressed in black, head to toe, furtive eyes poking out from a hood drawn as low as possible. Pippa was engrossed in her photo, and the newcomer took note of this, moving off to the back of the store as Pippa sighed again and hugged the portrait, none the wiser. Barry had gotten trapped in his guard cap, like a turtle stuck on its back, so couldn't see the cameras. The new entrant, after another quick glance at Pippa, shuffled up to a rack of small electronics and started to shove them in the pockets of his hoodie. The thief didn't go unnoticed, however. The ghostly princess Spectra Libertina crossed her arms and frowned as she floated up above, invisible to mortal eyes. She had reasoned that perhaps she could get away with absconding from her princessly duties for a short time, just long enough to explore town and for her absence not to be noticed. But it seemed as though she had landed herself in a tricky situation. She glanced at the store clerk, a blue-haired penguin girl. Whoever she was, she hadn't noticed what was going on in the store. The thief looked around and again spotted Pippa still daydreaming. He paused, appearing to be considering something. Spectra froze and unfolded her arms. This could get bad. She had to hold herself back from intervening. No one knew she was here, and she could get in trouble if she was seen. The thief crept towards the counter, checking the cameras and Pippa as he did so. Pippa was making kissy faces at the photo now, and still hadn't seen him. Spectra floated overhead, unsure of what to do. She realized he was staring straight at the cash register, which must have been his new target. Barry, still stuck in his cap, saw the thief come into view over the counter and started to squawk. Pippa shushed him and flapped a hand in his direction, eyes still on Keeny. As he moved around the counter, Spectra snapped out of indecision. It didn't matter if she got seen, someone was in danger. With a flick, she became corporeal again, and in one quick motion had one of her spears screaming through the air. It passed the thief by and slammed through the back wall, neatly nudging one of the top-shelf bottles aside and down just as the thief rounded the counter's corner. It smashed over his head, splashing everywhere and knocking him down with a heavy thud. Pippa cried out as she was brought to her senses by the sound of glass breaking. She whipped around to see the thief struggling to his feet, groaning as he did so. Instinctively she stepped back, looking at her surroundings for something to use against him. Before she could reach for anything, the thief took his chance and ran for the door to escape. In a flash, Pippa darted into the security room, hefted Barry up by the jacket, skidded a few feet and punted him full force at the thief. Barry smashed into the back of the thief's head, causing him to grunt and stumble, falling into the doors as they opened, and ending up sprawled in the entranceway, electronics spilling out of his pockets as he lay still. Pippa took a deep breath. Barry popped up none the worse for wear, and proceeded to sit on the thief with an expression of triumph. Pippa smiled, and was about to go for the phone when she noticed Spectra, still floating but now visible to mortal eyes. Spectra started, realizing she was visible, and with a snap of her fingers recalled her spear. She moved to leave, beginning the process of shrouding herself again. "Wait!" Spectra paused, glancing back. Pippa was looking up at her imploringly, eyes wide and face soft. "Thank you." "It's all right," Spectra replied uncomfortably. "Think nothing of it." "You saved me." "That's not nothing. Far from it." "I owe you so much." Pippa trailed off, still staring up at Spectra. Will you come visit again? Can I see you again?" Spectra looked down, holding her arm. She knew she wasn't supposed to, but something about the way that penguin stared so earnestly at her made saying no impossible. "I'll think about it." Pippa whooped and jumped for joy. "It's a date, then!" Spectra's eyes widened in shock, and she tried to get a response out before electing to phase back into her incorporeal form and escape through the door and out into the night. Pippa beamed at where Spectra had been, and was brought back to reality by another squawk from Barry. Hurrying to the phone, she picked it up and started dialing the emergency services. Later on that night, once the hustle and hubbub of the thief's arrest and her own testimony to the police were over, Pippa finally found herself tucked up in bed and cuddling Barry. The picture of Keeny Weeny was sat on her bedside table, but strangely enough, unlike most nights, she didn't feel the urge to try and dream about him. Instead, she thought of the spectral woman who had helped rescue her from danger. Her chest filled with an unfamiliar feeling, and a smile crept onto her lips as she turned over. Maybe, just maybe, she could allow herself to hope that the ghost girl would come back. She just knew that they would get along, if only they could meet again. And, if they did meet again, somewhere, somehow, perhaps they could be friends. Pippa liked that idea very much, and was soon sound asleep, dreaming of what could be. The end.